You know those stories that start with a dream and spiral into a nightmare you can't look away from? This is one of them. Picture a guy named Tom, a hard-working engineer in his late 40s from the heart of Georgia, who's always had this itch for something wilder than his 9-to-5 grind. Tom's the kind of person who scrolls through real estate listings late at night, dreaming of a project that could change everything. One day, he stumbles on an ad for a neglected plot of land, 50 acres of overgrown swamp, priced dirt cheap because no one else wants the hassle. But Tom sees potential. He envisions turning that murky mess into a sparkling lake, a private oasis for fishing, family gatherings, and quiet evenings watching the sun dip below the horizon. Little does he know, this purchase is about to drag him into a battle with the most entitled HOA you've ever heard of, one that tries to snatch his hard-earned paradise right out from under him. Stick around, because this tale of sweat, strategy, and sweet justice will have you rooting for Tom every step of the way. Have you ever poured your heart into a project only to have someone else try to claim it? Let's unpack how Tom fought back. It all kicks off in the humid summer of 2023. Tom closes the deal on the property, a forgotten corner of rural Georgia, where the air hums with cicadas and the ground squelches underfoot. The land's been abandoned for years, choked with invasive cattails, murky water pooling in stagnant ponds, and tangles of vines that could hide anything from alligators to old moonshine stills. Tom's no stranger to hard work. He grew up on a farm, fixing tractors and building fences, so he dives in head first. He hires a local surveyor to map out the boundaries, confirming the entire swamp is his, free and clear, no HOA mentioned in the deeds. Excitement bubbles up as he sketches plans: dredge the muck, reinforce the banks, install natural filtration with native plants, and let nature do the rest. "This is going to be my legacy," he tells his wife Sarah over dinner one night. She's supportive but cautious, warning him about the costs. Tom brushes it off. He's budgeted $150,000 from savings, figuring it'll take a year or two. What drives you to take on a massive project like that? For Tom, it's the thrill of transformation, turning something ugly into a gem. The restoration begins in earnest that fall. Tom rents heavy equipment, excavators, backhoes, even a floating dredge barge, and starts clearing. The work is grueling, days spent knee-deep in mud, battling mosquitoes the size of small birds, and hauling out truckloads of debris. He documents everything on his phone, snapping before and after photos that show the swamp slowly giving way. By winter, he's excavated a central basin 10 acres wide and deep enough for boating. He plants willows and cypress along the edges to prevent erosion, stocks the emerging water with bass fingerlings from a local hatchery, and even builds a small dock from reclaimed wood. Neighbors start noticing. Folks from the nearby subdivision, a gated community called Willow Creek Estates, drive by and wave, curious about the changes. One evening, as Tom's wrapping up, a woman in a pristine white SUV pulls up. She's Brenda, the HOA president of Willow Creek, with perfectly coiffed hair and a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. "What's all this commotion?" she asks, stepping out in heels that sink into the dirt. Tom explains his vision politely, offering her a tour. She nods, but her eyes narrow at the property line. "Just make sure it doesn't affect our views," she says before driving off. Tom chuckles it off as neighborly concern. If only he knew. As spring rolls in, the transformation accelerates. Rain fills the basin, turning the dredged area into a nascent lake that reflects the blooming dogwoods like a mirror. Tom adds gravel paths, a picnic area, and solar-powered lights for evening strolls. Wildlife returns. Herons wade in the shallows, frogs chorus at dusk, and dragonflies skim the surface. Sarah and their kids visit on weekends, roasting marshmallows by a fire pit and planning future fishing trips. Tom's investment pays off emotionally, too. He feels alive, purposeful. But whispers from Willow Creek start filtering in. A friend who lives there mentions Brenda's been complaining at HOA meetings about that eyesore next door and how the swamp runoff might lower property values. Tom shrugs. His land isn't part of their HOA. It's separate, zoned agricultural. He double-checks with the county clerk, who confirms no covenants apply. Still, curiosity piqued. He attends an open HOA meeting one night, sitting in the back of the community center. Brenda holds court, ranting about maintaining standards. When a resident asks about Tom's project, she smirks. "We're monitoring it closely." Tom leaves uneasy but determined. Ever had that gut feeling something's brewing? The first real red flag waves that summer. Tom receives a certified letter from the Willow Creek HOA demanding he cease all unauthorized alterations to the land. It claims his property falls under an extended jurisdiction due to historical easements from the 1950s, when the swamp was part of a larger wetland shared with the subdivision's developers. Tom's baffled. His title search showed no such thing. He calls his lawyer, a no-nonsense guy named Mark, who reviews the documents and laughs. This is bogus. They're bluffing. But Brenda isn't backing down. She starts sending inspectors, actually just HOA board members with clipboards, who trespass to take photos. One day, Tom catches a guy poking around his dock. "Get off my land," Tom growls. The guy scurries away, muttering about violations. Tensions rise when Brenda files a complaint with the county, alleging environmental damage. Inspectors visit, but they praise Tom's eco-friendly approach, noting improved water quality. Brenda's undeterred. She rallies her board to vote on annexing Tom's land into the HOA, claiming it's for the greater good. Word spreads through social media. Local Facebook groups buzz with opinions. Some side with Tom, calling it a land grab. Others, HOA loyalists, parrot Brenda's lines about protecting investments. What would push you to your limit in a situation like this? Tom decides to fight smart. He hires an environmental consultant to certify the lake's benefits: cleaner water, habitat restoration, even flood control for the area. Reports in hand, he confronts Brenda at her doorstep. "This is my property. Back off." She crosses her arms. "We'll see about that. Our lawyers say otherwise." Turns out, the HOA has dug up old maps showing a vague drainage easement that supposedly gives them rights to the water flow. Tom's lawyer debunks it. The easement expired decades ago, but the HOA sues anyway, seeking an injunction to halt work and claiming partial ownership of the improved waterway. The lawsuit hits like a gut punch. Court dates loom, legal fees pile up. Tom's family feels the strain. Sarah worries about the stress. The kids miss carefree weekends. But Tom digs deeper, researching Brenda's background. He discovers she's a real estate flipper who's profited from HOA enforcements, forcing sales on non-compliant owners. One former resident shares a story. Brenda fined them out of their home over a garden shed. Fuel for the fire. Tom starts a petition among non-HOA neighbors, gathering signatures against the overreach. Media picks it up. A local news station runs a segment. Man turns swamp to sanctuary, but HOA wants a piece. Views explode online, with commenters cheering Tom on. Brenda responds with a smear campaign, posting flyers calling the lake a mosquito breeding ground. The battle lines are drawn. Escalation hits fever pitch in the fall. The HOA erects a fence along the shared boundary, blocking Tom's access to a service road. He tears it down legally, citing right-of-way, but Brenda calls the sheriff, accusing vandalism. Deputies arrive, but after reviewing deeds, they side with Tom. Frustrated, Brenda ups the ante. She petitions the state environmental agency, claiming Tom's dredging violated wetland protections. This backfires spectacularly. The agency not only clears Tom, but awards him a grant for conservation efforts. Emboldened, Tom hosts an open house at the lake, inviting the community. Dozens show up, including disillusioned Willow Creek residents. They fish, hike, and hear Tom's side. Whispers turn to outright rebellion. At the next HOA meeting, members question Brenda's leadership. She snaps, "This is insubordination." But cracks show. Her treasurer resigns, citing ethical concerns over fund misuse for legal fees. Tom's lawyer uncovers financial irregularities, HOA dues funneled to Brenda's personal attorney. Subpoenas fly. The courtroom becomes the arena. In the packed county courthouse, the climax unfolds like a thriller. Tom's team presents evidence, clear titles, expert testimonies on the lake's value, and damning records of HOA overreach. Brenda's lawyer stumbles, unable to prove the easement. The judge, a stern woman with a soft spot for property rights, rules in Tom's favor. "This is a blatant attempt at appropriation," she declares, ordering the HOA to pay Tom's legal costs, $50,000, and cease all claims. Cheers erupt from Tom's supporters. Brenda storms out, face flushed. But it's not over. The exposure leads to an audit. Turns out Brenda skimmed funds for her own lakefront upgrades in another property. Charges follow: embezzlement, fraud. She resigns in disgrace, selling her home and vanishing from the scene. Tom's lake stands triumphant, now a community jewel. He adds benches with plaques thanking supporters. turning it into a shared haven without the HOA's grip. Looking back, Tom's journey from swamp to showdown teaches us about resilience and the power of standing firm. If you've battled an HOA or nosy neighbor, you know the rush of victory. Share your stories in the comments. Did you win, or is the fight ongoing? If this hooked you, hit like, subscribe for more tales of everyday heroes taking on entitlement, and ring the bell for notifications. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. Until next time, keep dreaming big and defending what's yours. Wait, that was just the teaser version. No, let's dive deeper because this story has layers that deserve the full spotlight. Tom's early days on the property weren't just about digging dirt. They were about rediscovering himself. After 20 years in a cubicle, crunching numbers for a tech firm, the swamp became his therapy. He'd wake at dawn, coffee in hand, watching mist rise off the water as he planned the day's work. The physical labor, swinging a mattock to clear roots, operating the excavator with precision, built not just the lake, but his confidence. Sarah noticed the change. "You're smiling more," she'd say, joining him to plant water lilies that bloomed in vibrant pinks and whites. Their kids, teenagers glued to screens, learned to bait hooks and identify birds, forging bonds that city life couldn't offer. The ecosystem thrived too. Otters slipped into the water, turtles basked on logs, and the air filled with the sweet scent of honeysuckle he planted along the banks. It was paradise emerging from chaos, a testament to what one determined person can achieve. But paradise has its serpents, and Brenda was the queen of them. Her backstory adds fuel to the curiosity. A former corporate executive who retired early and poured her control-freak energy into the HOA. Neighbors whispered about her reign of terror, finding one family for holiday lights past January, another for a basketball hoop that clashed with aesthetics. Brenda saw Tom's project as a threat to her domain, especially when his lake-enhanced views from Willow Creek's higher lots. Jealousy simmered. She confided to a board member that, if we can't have it, no one should. Her initial letter wasn't just a warning. It was the opening salvo in a calculated campaign. Tom, ever the engineer, responded with data. Hydrology reports showing his lake improved drainage, preventing floods that had plagued the area in past storms. He emailed Brenda politely, attaching PDFs. Her reply: a curt irrelevant. Comply or face consequences. That lit the fuse. As the conflict brewed, Tom's daily life turned into a spy novel. He'd spot drones buzzing overhead, HOA hired to monitor compliance, and wave cheekily at the camera. One night, he found survey stakes planted on his side of the line, marking proposed HOA expansion. He pulled them up, documenting with video. Sarah grew anxious. What if they escalate to something dangerous? Tom reassured her, but installed security cameras just in case. The lawsuit filing came on a rainy Monday, served by a process server who looked apologetic. The complaint read like fiction, accusing Tom of trespassing on communal resources by creating an artificial water body that diverts natural flows. Legal jargon masked the greed. Mark, the lawyer, broke it down. They're claiming the water itself belongs to them because of that defunct easement. Court prep consumed Tom's evenings, poring over maps from the 1940s, interviewing elderly locals who remembered the land as wild marsh. One old-timer recalled, that swamp was nobody's but the gators. Testimony gold. The media frenzy amplified everything. After the local news piece, a podcaster reached out, turning Tom's story into an episode titled Swamp Wars, HOA versus the Little Guy. Downloads soared, with listeners sharing similar horrors. A California HOA claiming a homeowner's solar panels ruined the skyline. A Texas one fining for native wildflowers as weeds. Tom's inbox filled with support, including tips from lawyers nationwide. He started a blog, From Swamp to Sanctuary, chronicling the fight with photos and updates. Engagement skyrocketed. Readers donated to a legal fund that covered half his fees. Brenda countered with anonymous online posts, calling Tom an environmental vandal. But her facade cracked when a whistleblower, the resigned treasurer, leaked emails showing Brenda's plan to acquire the lake for community use, meaning exclusive access for HOA elites. Public outrage boiled. In the courtroom, details unfolded like a drama series finale. Tom's opening statement painted the picture. I bought a swamp with my own money, restored it with my own hands, for my own family. Now they want to steal it? Witnesses testified. The environmental expert lauding the biodiversity boost, neighbors praising the aesthetic upgrade. Brenda took the stand, prim and defensive. We're protecting our investments, she insisted. But cross-examination exposed lies. She admitted the easement was questionable, and bank records showed HOA funds paid for her personal surveyor. The judge's gavel fell like thunder, dismissing the case with prejudice. Outside, reporters swarmed. Tom's quote went viral. "This lake is mine, and it's staying that way." The audit followed swiftly, revealing $20,000 in misappropriated dues. Brenda's arrest made headlines. Handcuffed in her driveway, the image of entitlement humbled. Post-victory, Tom's Lake became legendary. He hosted ecology tours for schools, teaching kids about restoration. Willow Creek reformed, electing a new board focused on fairness. Tom and Sarah celebrated their anniversary on the dock, toasting to perseverance. The experience changed him. He quit his job to consult on land projects, helping others avoid similar pitfalls. Curiosity satisfied? This story reminds us that dreams are worth defending, especially when bullies come knocking. If it resonated, drop your thoughts below. What's your wildest property tale? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more. But wait, there's more to unpack, because Tom's journey didn't end with the gavel. In the months after, he expanded the lake's features, a floating platform for yoga sessions, native bee habitats along the shore, even a small observatory for stargazing, given Georgia's dark skies. Community events blossomed. Annual fishing derbies where prizes went to the biggest catch. Potlucks under string lights with live bluegrass music. Former HOA skeptics became regulars admitting, "We were wrong. This place is magic." Brenda's downfall rippled wider. Her case inspired state legislation tightening HOA powers, dubbed the Swamp Protection Act in jest. Tom testified in Atlanta, sharing his saga to lawmakers who nodded in empathy. Media followed up with a documentary short. Reclaimed Waters, streaming on platforms and garnering awards at environmental film fests. Reflecting on the costs, not just financial, but emotional, Tom often sat by the water at twilight, journal in hand. The stress had aged him, added gray to his hair, but also wisdom. Sarah and he grew closer, their marriage fortified by the trial. The kids, inspired, pursued environmental studies in college. Tom's blog evolved into a book deal, Swamp to Sanctuary, Battling Bureaucracy for Your Backyard. Royalties funded scholarships for land stewardship programs. Curiosity about human nature drove the narrative. Why do some, like Brenda, crave control? Psychologists he interviewed pointed to insecurity, a need to dominate amid personal voids. Brenda, post-conviction, served community service restoring public wetlands, an ironic twist that Tom found poetic. Years later, in 2025, the lake stands as a thriving ecosystem. Bald eagles nest in the cypresses, kayakers paddle silently at dawn, and families picnic without fear of fines. Tom's story lives on in online forums, a beacon for those facing similar fights. It fulfills that deep human urge to see justice prevail, to witness the underdog triumph. If you've read this far, you're hooked on these tales as much as I am. Share yours, engage below, and let's keep the conversation going. Thanks for the time. Your support means the world.